have a confession to make. I wasn't always an MMA fan. I know. I have hurt you all, and I'm sorry. I'm truly, truly sorry. I started watching MMA mostly with pride when I was very young, with some UFC, but around 2007, I just kind of stopped altogether. I remember just kind of watching clips here and there. Then, on October 8th, 2008, I got asked by my dad, may he rest in peace. I got asked by him if I wanted to watch a fight card that was on CBS. I was a little surprised at fights being on CBS, but, you know, I sat down and I watched EliteXC Heat. EliteXC Heat took place on October 8, 2008 at the Bank Atlantic Center in Sunrise, Florida. It had around 9,400 people in attendance, but it racked over 4.5 million viewers on television. It featured Gus Johnson, Mauro Ranallo, and Frank Shamrock on commentary, which is super sweet. So now for the main card. And now we have two names that may ring a bell in Benji Radek taking on Murillo Ninja Rua, the older brother to Mauricio Shogun Rua. And while he never reached the greatness of his brother, he still was a good barrel of fun. He was awesome. The middleweight fighters are squaring off with Radek having his hands ready to be launched. Ninja is trying to circle and stiff arm out, but a short left hook cracks Ninja for a momentary drop, with Radek really trying to put on the pressure. Ninja recovers a little bit and fires a big right hand, but he eats another clean left hook that has Radek stumble down and Ninja hitting the mat briefly. Both of them on the mat now. Funnily enough, the guy who gets knocked down with the shot nearly gets top position. Radek eats a huge knee and goes for the takedown, with Ninja trying to get a Kimura, but he can't keep it. Ninja then goes for a leg lock, and it's actually pretty tight looking for a second. It doesn't work. It leads to some back and forth grappling, with Ninja having the advantage in the grappling when the round ends. Second round, and Rua looks, he actually looks pretty good here. He lands a huge low kick that visibly hurts Radek based on his facial expression, and goes for a leaping knee to the body. And you can see Radek is looking for his timing. And just as I say that, wow, a big right hand counter comes down the pipe from Radek to blast Ninja for even thinking about another low kick. Then comes another leaping knee. Radek lands a big shot that drops Rua. Big shots just put him out, and that's it. Radek wins by second round KO. This fight's actually really good. First round's sloppy and wild, and the second round's a little slower due to some exhaustion problems, but regardless, super solid 8.5 for me. I had a lot of fun watching this. I didn't remember how good this fight was, and big thumbs up. Next up, we have a huge debut for the Retro Review series as Gina Carano takes on Kelly Cobold. So Gina Carano was huge in 2008. She was let's be honest, she's a smoke show back then, and a talented fighter that helped introduce women's MMA to a ton of masses. That leads to what I think is kind of an overlooked legacy. So everyone credits Ronda Rousey for the boom in women's MMA. Before the boom, you need the introduction, in a sense, to it, and Gina Carano was that introduction. Fun fact, though, this fight's at women's featherweight. You know that made-up division that the UFC currently has? Yeah. Also, it has 3-minute rounds, excuse me. Super whack. So out the gate, Cobold is putting on the pressure on Gina, but eats a huge right hand that forces a clinch against the cage. After some aggressive holly-homing and working for a takedown, we see Gina break away and look to land some hard shots. Big right hands land as Cobold is swinging wide that leaves herself open to be countered. They clinch up and Gina's just bringing these knees up very nicely. And the round ends with Carano looking to get the strike flowing going again. Second round comes in. Carano lands a great right hand that stuns Cobold. Cobold eats some more clinch knees, and she's using it to press Carano to the cage to try and force some grappling. They break away again, and for the majority of the round, Carano is just lighting up Cobold on the feet. Near the end of the round, Cobold finally gets a takedown where she's able to land some punches before the round ends. Third round, Cobold just blitzes Carano for the clinch, again just to press her against the cage. Very ahead of her time in her game, Cobold is, as we're very far away from Holly Holm perfecting this style later on. Cobold began swinging wildly, trying to get inside and eat some counters. Cobold then tries for the old Devin Clark trick of going for the single leg against the far leg, which leads to her nearly getting put in a no-hook standing rear naked choke. Cobold escapes, clinches against the cage again. Carano breaks away and just lights up Cobold with a combination, then a snap kick to the head. And at the end of the fight, Gina Carano wins by unanimous decision. This is a solid fight. There's some moments of meh, but overall, this was a very, very decent, solid fight. Like, probably as most solid as you can get. So I give it a 7.5. I kind of feel like that's where like my average is of good fights. Like, oh, it's a good fight. It's fine. 7.5 are kind of my little rating area. I had some fun with this one, you know? I had fun. I'm going to give it a 0.5. But now it's time for some heavyweights. Andrei Arlovski, the man who will be decisioning heavyweights at the Apex for the next 80 years. He's taking on Roy Nelson, the man widely regarded as one of the worst physiques in MMA history, but I always think of him as the guy who actually had decent offensive footwork for landing his right-hand bomb later in his career. Out the gate, Nelson goes for a level change and presses Arlovski to the cage. Arlovski goes for a trip, but Nelson reverses it and gets top position. After a move to side control with still trying to work on this Kimura, the ref stands him up, though, which is really, really weird. Too fast, I think. Quick hands from Arlovski, but his footwork fails him as Nelson is able to press him against the cage again. Massive knee in the clinch from Arlovski, and the ref, though, separates them and they're back on their feet. Really early again, dare I say fishy kind of early again. Arlovski is landing bombs with some good low kicks. Nelson does pin him to the cage again though, trying to force some grappling, but no avail as the round will end. It opens up similar to the first now in the second round, and this time Nelson lands a great shot that stumbles Arlovski. Nelson uses this to press up and get some Holly Holman, but Arlovski stops it, is able to reset the position. Arlovski now just pouring on the punishment, including a big head kick, a great combination ending with a big uppercut as Nelson tries to stumble out, but a huge right hand puts him down for the finish. Andrei Arlovski wins by KO in the second round. This fight is fine. A good, solid finishing sequence, and there's some slow moments, though, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. My brain initially had it as a 6 out of 10, but I'm kind of leaning more to a 7 out of 10 because I really like the finishing sequence. A lot of stalling against the cage with some spurts of very good action, as the grappling was actually really good when there was grappling. So from one dangerously controversial Twitter account with Gina Carano, we have another in Jake Shields, who is one of the most boring fighters of all time, and he's taking on a man who is banned from the UFC in Paul Daly, a man notorious for being laid and preyed on, and even booing one of his own fights in Bellator. That's actually pretty awesome to me. We have this striker-grappler matchup. Usually early on in these, you see the striker being a little worried and trying to stay on their toes while the grappler feels like he can be a little looser in the striking. Jake Shields does eventually get a single leg to drag Daly to the mat, and Shields is really trying to pass guard, and once he hits side control, he gets an easy mount. And let's be honest, the rest of the round is just a grappling domination from Shields until the end, when he goes for an armbar that Daly escapes, and Daly ends up on top position from the guard of Shields, just landing some good elbows when he can. Second round, and Daly goes for this big high kick that is defended by Shields. Daly ends up rushing Shields, who gets caught, and anytime Daly is kind of close now to just landing on Shields, he just kind of drops to his back, looking to drag Daly to the ground. Eventually, Shields does drag the fight to the mat, and he gets mount very quickly. Shields does eventually get the armbar, and that's it. Jake Shields retains the EliteXC welterweight title with an armbar in the second round. And this fight isn't very good. That's why I kind of was like, just go through it. It wasn't very good. Jake Shields is notoriously boring, and I'm giving this fight a 4. Let's move on. What's the main event? Oh, yo, it's the main event of the evening, and we have Kimbo Slice taking on Ken Shamrock. What's up? Really? The card says it was... the weird things happen, I guess. So we have Kimbo Slice taking on Ken Shamrock. Initially, that was the plan, but it's not Ken Shamrock anymore. Ken Shamrock, he had an injury warming up in the back. So our new main event is a heavyweight clash between Seth Petruzzelli and Kimbo Slice. Kimbo comes out ready to bang early, and he gets leveled by a glancing right hand. And that leaves Kimbo in La La Land when the ref stops it. Seth Petruzzelli upsets the world and TKOs Kimbo Slice in 14 seconds. This is absolutely hilarious. By all accounts, Kimbo Slice is the nicest guy in the world. Maybe the nicest guy to ever have walked this earth. May he also rest in peace. But I can't act like this isn't funny. 8 out of 10 for how funny it is with the context of everything. With the context of everything, this is so funny. Out of context, it's like a 6. Come on, let's be honest. Maybe a 5. But what makes this story so funny? EliteXC was a brand built around Kimbo Slice, so to speak. So when he went down, the company that was losing $50 million at the time, they were operating in the red. They were in negotiations with Showtime for them to buy a majority stake, which would get them out of the red and would save them, basically. Gone. Those negotiations ended as their brand just got TKO'd in 14 seconds, basically. Even wilder, Seth Petruzzelli implied that he was told to keep the fight standing against Kimbo by the promoters. That gave people the idea of fight tampering, which led to Dana White having the incredibly memed line of, That's effing illegal. Seth Petrozelli, for the record, he did come out and say his comments were taken and misconstrued, but that is something to consider. Here's another thing to consider. Earlier in the card, remember how I talked about Roy Nelson and Andrei Arlovski? They had that weird stand-up with a lot of time left on the clock while Nelson was working for Kimura, and then they got separated when Nelson was working for a takedown against the clinch. Arlovski was the bigger name with a clear advantage on the stand-up. Those actions by the ref really hurt Nelson in their fight. So is this a case of bad refereeing or some extra tampering? It's something to think about. That's all I'm saying. I'm pulling an Eddie Bravo here. I'm crazy, man. Maybe something to think about. It's kind of wild. It's kind of interesting. So what did I think of this whole card? I actually had a ton of fun. I actually had a lot of fun. I think it's a solid 8 out of 10 card overall. The bad fight is really bad, but like it's not like the worst thing I've ever seen on the show. Trust me, I've seen some really bad fights on this show. And some moments are slow, but overall, this was a really good card in terms of fun and in terms of the fight product. That's it for me, though. And come on. One-on-one, we can talk. I know you miss me. You miss me often. So, you can always check me out on the second channel, INC Live, where I recap every UFC card after it happens. I even recently had to review a Bellator card. It was a kind of a spur-of-the-moment fun thing, but I did it. And you know, you can always check me out there. And also, if there's some retro reviews you haven't seen, go check out our playlist on the channel for it. Why not? There's tons of great stuff there. I've covered a lot of cards already. Been doing this over a year now, and I'm having the time of my life doing it. And it's just so cool. It's so fun. I love interacting with you guys in the comments as well. It's so much fun kind of getting to work on a fun project like this and having cool fans like that. But more importantly, let's say you have a card you want me to watch. Like maybe it's a really good card. Like I recently got a donation to review a card that has my favorite fight of all time on it. But maybe there's a card that sucks and you just want to torture me. You can technically go down to our Patreon, join, and you get to ask for one. What? How is that not cool, dude? Come on. You can make me watch basically damn near anything I get my hands on. But anyways, that's it for me. I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you so much for watching.